We're live.
There's something.
All right, well, it being 6:32, I'd like to call the public hearing to go over the Tilton Northfield Fire District warrant. It is Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. The Fire District Commissioners up front here. We're in the Tilton Police Department Community Room. Thank you all for attending. Hope everybody has a copy. Happy to entertain questions. So if you go to the warrant, whatever you want. Do you need us to read the warrant, each article? I have a few notes just to go along here. Fire district officers, we do have a moderator who volunteered, so we're very excited about that. It'll be on the ballot to fill out the balance of the term. So that's Scott Finmore volunteered.
Must have taken
Thank
it
you very
good.
much. Line article, I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions on that. Article 2 is the budget, which we just went over. Article 3 is the apparatus and equipment replacement fund. So this information can be found on the budget starting on page 7. Actually 8.
Page 9.
9.
Page 9. That gives you the revenue, then page 10 is the budget.
That's 10.
We'll have the details on page 10.
Do you want questions as you go, or if you
I think as we go would be less.
need to back up?
Okay.
In Article 2, operating budget, is there a pay raise in that number?
Yes, there is.
How much is that pay raise? Percentage-wise?
3%. 3%.
And what did they get last year?
18%.
They got 18% last year?
Yes.
And you're giving them 3% this year?
Yes.
And what was prior to that, prior to the 18%?
10%, I think.
I'm sorry, 20?
10. 10-ish.
Okay.
Seems like at this meeting a year ago, at least two of you indicated there would be a raise 25 because of the hit we took in 23 and 24. Was that fact or fiction?
This is a COLA.
This is, you're considering that just a COLA?
This is just a COLA.
It's a COLA.
The 3% is
The
just,
3% is just a COLA.
We spent a lot of time talking about this. The chief had presented a couple options. One was a COLA, one was a step. Then we talked about
Educational incentives.
Yeah, educational incentives. Went back and forth on the merits of each. And then looking at the cost of living increase this year, we decided to go with that 3% COLA.
okay, so your budget right now, in your warrant article, is 3 million with an M, 710. So you're at 3.7, and the employees were given 10%, and then they were given, we're talking about salary increases, you said 10%?
No.
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 10% was like 2 years ago,
Right.
18% last year, 3% this year. And even given all that, and including like the new dental insurance, we're still below the median of the people that we compete with fire department wise. So for us to be equal to the median, we would have needed a 6% pay raise.
So where do our taxpayers, where do they fall into line with the median? do you know what I'm saying, regular households in the area, those are the people, the taxpayers that are paying this. And they're the ones who feel it, because they're not getting 10%. And yes, you know what, I know you guys are gonna complain that I work for the state.
All I'm saying is that we need to be competitive in our marketplace, because if we don't have the employees to perform the services that are required by the people who live here, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be fair and in the middle. We're not at the top. We can't be at the bottom, because we were, and that's why we got a couple of raises that were larger. We weren't getting anybody to apply, and even now, we had 2 openings. We filled 1, and we still have an opening that we have been able to
2
fill.
openings, career, or you
Career
talking-
firefighters.
Okay,
And I'm trying to interview somebody tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll be able to offer them a job, but it's very, very difficult to get and very competitive for firefighting positions right now, because there's nobody out there qualified to do the job.
So two other aspects.
So we steal from other fire departments, and to stop that, you have to be, we don't want anybody stealing from us, and so to stop that, we have to be competitive, which in my mind is at least in the middle of the ballpark. If you're at the bottom, people start leaving, they go to Concords, they go to Manchester or Nashua, or Derry. They all have openings right now, and I don't want to lose any of the folks that we have, because I truly believe what we have is an excellent situation with our employees that are out in the streets working every single day.
where did we lose our previous, the vacancies were caused by what?
So Mike Lewis went to Hudson, transferred to Hudson, and Steve Smith retired. So that
And
created.
prior to that, so are they leaving for money? Are we finding now that our workforce is aging out and they're eligible? At what age do the firefighters, are they eligible for retirement?
Well, it's not, well, it's a retirement system, it's age and years. So you have, I don't know what, they changed the rules again.
25, 52 and a half.
Yeah.
25 now?
And
25 years, 52 and a half years old.
52? That's still young for retirement.
Well, the one that's retiring is over.
Oh, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm just saying. 'Cause some of us have to wait till we're really old, that's what I'm saying.
I can tell you it's not enough money to.
Oh, no, I know that. But
So-
the other side to that, and no offense, the other side to that, as a taxpayer, we, the taxpayers, are putting money into your retirement. So you, as an employee, or as a person, and your family can make a decision to do deferred comp, Roths, or whatever, on your own if there's extra money. So you have that ability. And what is the rate? It's over 30% of every dollar that an employee, is it over 30 cents?
No, it's less than that.
2903.
29.
The employee pays 11.9, so if the employee pays 12%, and the district pays 29. Right?
Oh, because that's the state one,
Yeah.
12%.
Yes.
So 29. Thank you.
So every year, the chief does an analysis of our pay program and a selection of other fire departments. And last year, when we came with that large increase, we were trying to get up to the median on that. But as you would expect, several of those towns were also doing that at their town meetings, district meetings, and their pay went up as well. So when we do it for this year, you see that again, you're below that median.
And we're picking demographics with the same size towns? or-
Same size fire departments and other fire departments that are close to us. So I compare us with Franklin, Belmont, Plymouth, Laconia, Guilford. So those are like the close ones that I compare ourselves, but I also compare us with others similar sizes in the state. So like Goffstown, similar size, similar incidents, Bedford. I have the list here somewhere.
No, that's fine.
So I use the same ones all the time, so I'm not jumping around. And I've been using the same ones for the past 5-6 years. So it's very consistent of where we are in that. And we've always been, last year we got to the middle, and now we're below the middle again. So if we would have got a 6% raise, we would have stayed in the middle of where everybody is right now. Laconia is starting at $29.52 an hour, our new pay, we start at $25 an hour. Guilford is at $30 an hour to start.
Yeah, let me see in the ads, I know, I
So,
understand.
like if there's Guilford has an opening and we have an opening, guess who gets the application?
I know, but, you know, I have no offense, but everybody's having a problem recruiting, retaining, training. I mean, I don't, and it's not just in New Hampshire, you know, when you talk to people when you're traveling, I mean, it's, everybody's, in every economic, in every industry is having a hard time. I don't know what the hell they're doing if they're not working for us. I just don't understand it. I don't have an answer for it, but if you're not working, you have no money, you have no insurance, you have no this and that. So everybody, it doesn't, and you're not immune. Unfortunately, you're not immune. I get it.
So to circle back to Kevin's question, you asked, I believe you asked me a direct question, right? As to what I might have decided last year versus how I feel this year?
No, I was asking what was said at the meeting.
Okay, but you said at least two of us at the table, so I'm gonna roll the dice and, because I know exactly what I did. I was on the budget committee last year, and as you know me to be a fiscal conservative, I was actually the guy that pushed the envelope to get to 25 an hour, much to the chagrin of my colleagues on the budget committee, because I thought it would be important to aim slightly above the middle, and we're not there. So I think the chief's ask was in the $23 to $24, and I said, let's just do 25. And so at that time, I thought that year to get a starting pay of $25 an hour was critical to remain competitive. But I don't support restructuring the starting pay, but I did support the COLA for this year. So that's where I'm at. And don't ask me how I'm going to feel about it next year, because we don't know.
All right, any other questions on Article 2, budget? All right, let's move to Article 3. This is Equipment and Apparatus Fund. These monies are the monies that are collected through billing receipts from the ambulance, and they pay for all kinds of things, including new equipment, replacement equipment, repairs to equipment, certification of equipment.
Is that include that new SCBA
So the commissioners included that, yes.
How much is that?
All said and done, $45,000.
So we would buy that, it would be installed somewhere,
Installed, hooked up.
then
Able to be moved and relocated should buildings
at
change.
what cost?
Not 45,000. You own the equipment, you own the chemicals.
Plumbing and electrical connections.
Which should be in the new building. Emphasis on the new building. These things are new, right, new to the market?
About 7 or 8 years old.
7 or 8 years?
Yep.
Why do we never have one before?
I tried to get one through a grant, and for 2 years I was trying to get one through a grant, and through the grant process, one of the questions they ask you is, do you have a capital reserve fund? Yes. How much is in the capital reserve fund? At the time is over $1 million, and they send a letter back saying, buy it yourself.
Yeah,
You don't need it.
sometimes doing the right thing doesn't work out. And that's one of them. We save the money, we have the money.
They didn't even give us coupons for the chemicals.
So how did you clean them before?
So we scrub them, we don't have the machine yet. Machine, we won't order that until after district meeting. But we rinse it down and scrub it with a brush.
Interior or exterior?
What do you mean?
I don't understand what this washing machine does. It's a washing machine, right? Is it a
It's-
cylinder that you're cleaning?
No, it's the air pack, the frame, the cylinder, the mask. You put the whole thing in there, and it's like a commercial dishwasher for SCBA's, and he cleans it from 10 million different angles with this soap that gets a lot. Gets
So
all
does
the
it
stuff.
do a sterilization process on them
I wouldn't
also?
call it sterile, but the difference is if we took this air pack, we had a fire the other day, we took it, we wash them, and right now they go back on the truck. If we took that air pack that we washed annually and put it in this cleaning machine,
Yeah.
you should see the color of the water that comes out of there. Black.
And,
And all that black is carcinogens.
okay, understood. So my question is, are these air packs assigned to an individual, or are they, like, we have 3 or 4 on a truck and they're
It's
shared?
based on the number of seating positions in the trucks.
Okay, so it's not assigned to a particular person like a uniform?
No.
Okay. On page 12, under category 141.02, EMS disposable equipment, is that the ambulance?
That's all our,
Band-aids and bandages
I'm
and
sorry, oh, okay, yeah.
all the
Okay.
consumable throwaways.
Okay, because you said equipment, so I'm thinking like equipment, not,
it's
Medical.
like IVs
Consumable.
and stuff like that.
okay.
Tubing.
I don't know, Chief, if you want to speak to, as you get down into the rescue equipment, you'll see that there's a large amount of money spent for rope rigging and extrication tools.
Sure.
Those aren't typical reoccurring costs, but they're costs this year due to circumstances.
Sure, the rope and rigging, you want to take that, Sean? That's
So the rope and rigging is personal escape equipment. Currently, one of the things I implemented when I became the deputy chief is every 6 months we do escape drills out of windows, out of with ladder bales and out of window bales. And none of my staff have. We've just kind of cobbled together things to self-rescue out of windows, and I found that most of our window bales fail. And so if we do come to a situation where we need to get out of the window quickly, someone's going to get hurt. And so this is going to standardize the equipment. Everybody call in full-time who's interior certified in the department. These are systems to get in their gear. They'll be standardized through the department. They're good for 10 years. So these systems will last for 10 years. If we have an individual leave, they will leave their system here. That system will get issued to the new firefighter. So we won't have to, as we replace people, we don't have to replace these kits. So this is all the hardware, the belts, the hooks, the webbing, rope, and training also for it. There's a small portion of the training budget for that too.
Is that equipment reusable?
Hmm?
I mean, is that equipment?
Yes, yeah, if you use it once.
So if I bail once,
If you bail once, yeah, because you can keep bailing.
you don't use
However,
that again?
depending on which company we go with, yeah, you can keep using it. Yeah, I have one of my own that I've used tremendous. If you actually bail in a real life situation, you call the company. Typically, they'll give you a new kit to take yours for a study. That doesn't always happen, but that's a lot of times the company will give you a brand new kit if you bail in a real situation.
Extrication tools?
Sure, so there's a line item in here for extrication tools. It's to replace our hydraulic extrication tools, which currently run now on a Honda motor that generates hydraulic power. It takes several people to set up. We have it on the ladder truck, and since the ladder truck is usually responds with a call firefighter on it, because we have 4 guys on duty, 2 guys on the engine, 2 guys on the ambulance. The ladder with our heavy extrication equipment comes with usually 1 call firefighter. That's all we're gonna get. It takes several people to set it up to make it operational. These new tools are battery operated. You don't have to get out a portable generator, basically, start it up. You don't have all the hoses to hook up, make sure all the connections are proper. It's all self-contained, battery operated, just take it out of the truck and start using it. So this is going to save a lot of time when we have to use these types of tools. And
Two questions on the
Sure.
batteries. Cost of replacement batteries for those?
they're regular Milwaukee batteries that we go to Home Depot and buy. They're like $180 a
So
piece.
there's nothing specialty about them?
Nothing. In fact, all of our tools now are all on the same battery, so we could take batteries off of
So
different
that gets
things.
to be very expensive.
Yeah. And we use all Milwaukee batteries.
And so you always have it charged, it's always in, and it's charging through the
So we keep
vehicle?
fully charged, there's 2 batteries in each tool, they're both fully charged, and we have spare batteries right in the compartment for them, so if those drop off, we just drop
Okay.
2 more in and go.
With the apparatus and equipment fund, is that where the money for that beautiful tower that we have behind it, where does the money for that tower go?
That goes into 2 different places, so the amount of revenue we collect each year, half of it goes to offset the tax rate, and the other half is set into a special revenue fund that the commissioners are able to spend on buildings for repairs. That's how we pay for the doors, the door replacement at Park Street. That's how we're paying for the access control system, things like that.
And what did, off the top of your head, like what did that tower make for revenue last year?
Totally, $21,000, I think. But that's split up into 2 things, so half to offset taxes.
Oh, yeah.
The stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions in the apparatus equipment fund? All right, well, if you think of one, we'll come back. Article 4 is for $111,000. This is a continuation for the building committee for design, engineering, architectural fees towards the proposed 2026 building that will let it be next year. We'll talk about how we came up with that dollar amount. Chief, do you have that right there, the breakdown on that? You probably do.
Let's see if I have it in here. I don't know if it's in this book. I'll probably find it on my phone.
Typically, 100,000. Half in 100.
So
Yeah, that's a breakdown.
roughly what happened is the original amount was for $100,000 to design a single fire station. The new plan calls for the design of 2 fire stations. And so basically, the company said, well, we need another $100,000, and some prices went up a little bit on some of the stuff. So that's where the money's come from. So they have money to design one fire station, they need the other $100,000 to the other fire station. The breakdown of that,
Is this a result of spending money we didn't make?
we didn't fully expend the $100,000, so there's still money left in there for the first thing.
But when they said we need more money, we didn't have it to give them,
Right,
right?
right.
Shame on us. We should not have taken that step without the money to pay for it. So what happens now if this gets amended downward?
Then there won't be a proposal probably going before the 26th, at the 26th meeting for a fire station solution.
What is our unreserved, undesignated, whatever that word wants to be,
Balance.
300 and something thousand.
The unreserved fund balance?
I can,
I got it, I actually have.
Yeah.
I just have to find it. So I was looking at it earlier.
It's a little over 300,000.
okay, that's not. And that's cumulative. It's more than 1 year's
Yes.
left over.
Yes.
How much of our approved budget for '24 did we spend?
90, pretty much all of it. Because remember, we were already working on a reduced approved amount. So that's the chief's report. We used 99.7% of the approved budget. So there are a few warrant articles that are gonna come out of that unreserved fund balance, because the current balance includes the fire prevention funds, and then we move those out of the unreserved fund balance over into the fire prevention fund, and then the tower money gets moved into the tower fund.
So the unassigned fund balance is $360,587. The proposed transfers from that through warrant articles, proposed warrant articles, is $61,888, leaving a balance at the end of district meeting if everything doesn't change. If anything doesn't change, would be $298,699. Per our policy, we're supposed to have 16.67% in the unassigned fund balance, so that would cover us for about 2 months without receiving any revenue from the fire district, the towns. That 16.67% would be $618,542. So that's about half of where we really need to be. And that doesn't mean anything until you go to borrow. But what you have in your unassigned fund balance is a factor in what banks and other people look at when going to borrow. If you're not following the certain rules they give you, you'll probably pay a little bit higher interest in borrowing.
Is that true in a commercial bank as well?
Yes,
So they would be concerned that you're not following your own policy?
it's our policy, but our policy is based upon GASB rules. I don't know what GASB means, but I know it's an accountant.
financial.
It's that acronym.
Yeah.
It's a financial.
Yeah.
To Kevin's point, yes, Gatsby has a range. Policies are dictated by the board. And when's the last time you revisited the fund balance policy? Because quite frankly, in a budget your size, the range is, DRA says 5 to 17%. So if you're saying it's 16 point whatever, the reality would be you're under it now, and you've been under it for a while. So when's the last time this board revisited your fund balance policy? Because if you're not doing that, it will affect your borrowing in the future. Because what will happen is it'll call into question, if you know you're under, and you've been under continuously, it's going to affect any bonding and or TANs or whatever you want to do for borrowing. So what I would strongly recommend, that particular policy is something you should look at annually. Because your budget's live.
The recommendations from the annual audits in every audit.
Right,
And then
but
go to
it's
town
live.
meeting, and then the town meeting, and then the vote.
So you guys look at it annually.
We have a pile of policies we have to sign.
And you're saying that you look at the range, because the range is a range. Because DRA will never tell you it needs to be this number or this number. They tell you it's 5 to 17%.
Right, but DRA doesn't conduct our audits. Our auditor
Correct.
conduct our audits.
But they are a measure into what goes into borrowing. So all I'm suggesting is that's awful high and you've been under. So I would just take a look at that as a suggestion.
So what, I just questioned for clarification, so I understand what you're saying. So when they go to get a TAN,
Hmm.
we're gonna get a higher interest rate. It's
Perhaps,
gonna cost us, the taxpayers, more money.
maybe.
Because the guidelines are, we're not
So,
keeping our pockets a little bit more full. But if you're showing a precedent that we're not following that,
so DRA has no interest in when we go to borrow. It's the banks, the bonding agencies that look at this, and they're looking at the Gatsby rule, not our policy. Our policy is to try and keep us in with the Gatsby rules. It doesn't matter what DRA says when we go to borrow.
Do the towns have the same
Yep.
requirement?
Ours is 5 to 17. We're living with 5. Because it's the right thing to do. Past years, it was a range. I don't agree with the range. But I also agree you should look at it every year, because with the amount of vacancies we carry and recruitment problems and all the other things that have been batted around earlier today, I would suggest that that's part of a living, breathing process that you're looking at every year. And I strongly disagree, Chief, that it does weigh into everything you do when you go out for a TAN or a bond. I can promise you that.
it's just like for a
I
homeowner.
agree that that part does, but DRA has nothing to do with it. DRA is a suggestion, but the bank doesn't look at DRA. The bank looks at what their Gatsby rules and other borrowing rules are.
So how do we prevent the voting body from spending it at district meeting?
You can't.
You can't. We can have whatever policy we want. We can say it's gotta be 10, and then the voting body decides we wanna buy a circus, then
Can I make a suggestion? When you have a meeting, you need to prepare. And you know that we're gonna wanna spend that money on reserve. We as taxpayers, I'm gonna go broad on that. I, personally, I like having a savings account. I don't want it to become a slush fund where it's luxuries and things like that, and it's a lot of money building up. That makes me nervous as a taxpayer. But understanding that your life is fluid and you are not immune to heartache, breakdowns, whatever happens to be. Not everything is butterflies. So having that little reserve, and when you talk to people and you know what your budget is, you can say, our budget is $3 million even, so we know we want to keep this much, because DRA suggests this, and if we do the bare minimum of 5 to 7 or 8 or something like that, and you prepare firm numbers to us, because nothing's more annoying, me personally speaking, when I ask a number and I get, and everybody looks at me, that sets me off that I feel like I don't trust you, there's incompetence, and this is, and you tell me in the beginning of the meeting, this is your budget. Well, why don't you know your budget? Because I know my budget at home. I know I work with a lot less zeros, but I know when my money comes in and goes out, and when.
So Gretchen, do you support the Gatsby recommendation? Because
I know
there were years past, and meetings past, where you didn't. That's why I'm kind of asking you where you're at now.
I don't necessarily say Gatsby. I know we need to have something in reserve. And when people want to spend all of it on something, I'm not going to support that. Because that leaves us with our boots on the ground and nothing, no cushion. We're barefoot in a fire. So you've got to have something in the unreserved. And if you go in with a qualified number and firm number saying, this is our budget, and if we keep this, then according to Gatsby, according to DRA, you're coming to us with firm information, solid information, educated information, as opposed to, that doesn't fly with us. And I'm not gonna spend, I don't care what someone says to me, I'm not gonna vote on something taking all of our money on the unreserved. Because I've spent too much time at various meetings to know that's not, you just can't do that. You can't run a business or a household that way.
Right.
You just can't. I personally, I don't I don't work, I'm told how much money I can spend in my budget. I don't put the numbers together. And I know about Gatsby because, just because of what I do with subscriptions, renewals and all that stuff.
Right.
So I get that, and I know that there's certain things I can and cannot do where I spend money. But again, we don't spend every penny in our budget. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So, one of the reasons that that I've only been talking about this for the past 5 or 6 years is because I know at some point we're gonna borrow for a fire station. Eventually, I imagine. It's not gonna happen right away, it won't happen next year. But, other than that, keeping a less amount in there is no problem because we buy everything cash. If we can't buy it in cash, we don't buy it. We have a good plan where we have revenue, we do conservative estimates on what our revenue is going to be. We do over estimates of what we think we're going to be spending, so we keep a healthy balance in there. Our plan, capital improvement plan, goes 20 years out. So we have a plan on how we're going to expend that money and how we're going to collect revenue, so that's always in great shape. So equipment-wise, vehicle-wise, all that kind of stuff, we have no problems. What the only catch that all of our finances are right now is that when we go to borrow at the bank, we're going to get the loan or the bond, we'll get it. We just may be paying a little bit more because we're not following that Gatsby rule. That's all I'm saying. If you don't mind that, that's fine.
I do mind. I don't like more
If you
money.
want to do, you know, we probably won't be bonding anything for, if anything gets approved next year, we probably won't bond anything until the project's done. It'll be short-term borrowing until then. If you want to put money aside every year to build up that fund, you probably have 2 or 3 years. If it gets passed next year, a building project, if it gets passed next year, you probably have 2 or 3 years to build up that amount so that when you do go for a bond, or you know, it's like a construction loan, you want to turn it into a regular mortgage, you could be there if you put your effort into that. That's all I'm saying. Plan for it.
How far back do you know how far back they go to look at to make a determination on, I mean, like I know personally, if I go to the bank, they go back and they check your records for so many years. Do they do the same thing with municipalities? So that will influence, possibly.
I don't know, I'm not here to contradict.
No, okay, that's fine.
I'm certainly not
I'm just
here
saying
to.
your experience.
I would
Okay.
just say, in my mind, that if you want to pursue a capital project, it's on your radar, and clearly you've written a document that that's what you want to do, that you have a year to put your stuff together, is my thought, and you want to present it next year. Is that generally the theme you want to do? I'm not here to speak for that. I'm just simply saying, if you're saying there's a sense of urgency to actually do something, I would say that waiting 2 or 3 years to bond or get that sense of urgency out there and actually move on a project is, I can't wrap my head around that conversation. If you're telling us you need a station, for example, and you've documented that you need it, and you know you need it, the ask happens next year, the execution of said idea of all that, because you're asking for a warrant article to engineer, cost analysis, all of those things. In my mind, you're pretty damn near to shovel ready when you come to ask. Correct me if I'm wrong. So as far as bonding a project, if I was in your shoes, it's right on the heels of that ask is being when you do it. You can do it in a band, you can do a bond, you can do it incrementally. But again, I'm not here to get into your guys' business. You're the commissioners. I'm just suggesting the policy that you presently have, Gatsby, DRA, we can debate it all day long. Right now, you're roughly at 10%. So I'm saying if I was in your shoes, I would reevaluate that and say, is it fine to have a 10% reserve? Considering the size of your budget, why wouldn't you if you're pursuing the bond next year or pursuing a capital project? Just a suggestion.
Thank you for the input.
Because then it plays into moving forward.
I'm gonna go back to the original 100,000 for the building committee's work. So far, on that contract, we added additional scope project. So in the original project, we have spent 55,000 of that 100. On the additional scope of project, we spent another 15,000 and another $8,938, leaving about 1,900 of that warrant article, 19,000 of that warrant article still available.
Since 1960.
So we've got $45,000 worth of work. And then we added a second station to the plan. So they quoted us another 85,000. So between the 45,000 left on the original project scope, the 85,000, and then you back out the 19,000 that we haven't spent yet, that's how we came up with the $111,000.
1,900 you haven't spent?
19,000, that's my scope, 19,000.
That's out of this 111?
No, it's a reduction, so we're down to 111. So we have $45,000 worth of work to finish the original proposal for the one station solution, and then we have a quote for another $85,000 for the second station
In addition,
to the 45. So if you do the math there.
I don't remember the 85,000.
That was, we asked Lorero for, what's the right term? A quote for the
Change
new
order,
scope
basically.
of work. So what have we already done? What do you have left to do on the original scope of work? And now we add the second station. What does that include?
I don't remember that at those meetings.
That was not presented to the building committee yet. If remember our last meeting, that was one of the discussions that came up. We didn't know what that additional cost would be. The chief was going to get a quote from Lorero and then get back to us.
That's what I remember.
This is the first I
So the
heard.
85 is... Okay.
So that's about $111,000 numbers. Any other questions on that one or anything else? All right, we'll move on. Article 5 is Land and Building Capital Trust Fund. This is a fund that's currently has about $1 million in it.
900 and something, yeah.
Over 900, I'm sorry, over 900?
Yes.
Thank you.
Every year for the last number of years, we've had that on the warrant to put money into that account. We talked a lot about whether we wanted to ask for it again here, or because we were asking for the 111,000, whether it made sense to ask for another 100,000 for that account when potentially in 2026 we'll be asking for the project. So we decided to leave it in there and let the voters decide whether they wanted to fund 100,000 towards that project this year or put it off till the whole project's presented.
Any idea why the budget committee didn't support it?
I think, well,
Mr. Chairman?
Thanks, here.
We didn't, there was a lot of back and forth with us, and we didn't feel like we wanted to fund both $100,000 projects, so we understand that we need a new station, that needs to happen, but we didn't feel like putting 100,000 this year was wouldn't make a big enough chunk in the bucket this year, where if you're gonna go from a $1 million project next year, we just didn't see where the taxpayer should have to do two $100,000 things. And for me personally, even outside just as a taxpayer, I'm still struggling with the 2-station project. I don't know if it might be better to go to the district and figure out, I just feel like people are gonna support one, I just don't know if asking for two off the same time is the right move personally. I think I just don't wanna see us, like we have in years past, do all this work and then have it shot down and be like a roller coaster. So, I don't know, I'm just not quite there yet. I'm listening and absorbing the information. Just for me, I'm just not quite in support of two brand new stations at this time. So that was sort of some of our conversation.
The best money in the world is saved money. Money you don't have to borrow. 100,000 is tax money. So we just love to say, well, it costs the average household X. What's this 100,000 in a $4 million budget cost? And I'm like, how does that, we don't know the interest rate when we go to borrow. We have concern that we don't have enough money in reserve to show that we're creditworthy, whatever the terminology might be. I looked this up the other day and I can't remember. 0.5% in loan interest rate on $12 million, and I don't know why I picked $12 million, because I think the deal will be much more than that in the end, is a lot of money. It really is, because you're paying for it 20 plus years out. I did a 20-year and a 30-year, and not much of a tick in the interest rate is considerable when you're talking that much money. So I think for what it's going to cost me, this $100,000, I'd be disappointed if it wasn't me. I think it's the right thing to do.
Anyone else on that? Obviously, it was a contentious item for both the commissioners and the budget committee.
But with this group, I don't know if everybody's, did you get the whole vision, Scott, of the building plan, not to build two buildings all at the same time?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you guys have time.
Yeah, I mean, the shortest thing to think about is trying to run the operation the way that it's currently operating, with a footprint in Tilton and the garage in Northfield, as they presently exist. Center Street's gotta go, everybody knows that. So how do we replicate something that, similar to Center Street, within a reasonable radius of Tilton? All right, step one, substation here. I know what this building costs. There's a whole lot more bells and whistles in here than I think a fire station. So a fire station, living quarters, substation, engine, ambulance. We talked about a third bay because garage space is a whole lot cheaper per square foot than under air. For me, I don't care if it's 4 bays because it's garage space, but to get the operation out of Center Street into a substation here. That way Park Street still is viable for the garages, the support, the training, the call company, and we can run the business the way we're running it by getting Center Street here. Leaving the administration at Center Street, so the substation in Tilton is not extra, it doesn't have administration, doesn't have a training facility, doesn't have a training space. It's just the quarters, basic. Run what Center Street is here. Then, in subsequent 2, 3, 4, 5 year, get over to Park Street, move equipment from there into the Center Street garages while the administration is there and the building is still up. A couple of trucks can be there, because then that doesn't totally disrupt what's going on with Park Street. With the building committee, we'll share with you, that garage is not, you're not just gonna put a bunkhouse in the back of that garage. That garage is not code, the front walls that are just, it's like your home garage, it's not, and the floor and everything else. That Park Street is not just, you're not just gonna add living space onto there. So the substation in Tilton is up running, then develop Park Street. Then Park Street, it looks pretty similar, and that's why I think the partnership of the building committee and us and the architect to say, listen, we already have a drawing that works here, can you make something similar to what the substation is as a prototype and add the administration and add training, because all the training facilities at Park Street. So duplicate this, make it fit the parcel there, and then Park Street is complete, and when it's all said and done, the administration leaves Center Street, goes to Park Street, and then Center Street is a tear down, and that piece of land is given to the town, because this piece of land is the exchange for that. There's no purchase price of the land from the town of Tilton. There's no ownership cost of Park Street either, but to go anywhere else, some folks say, I'll just build everything in Park Street. That displaces all the trucks, it displaces the operation. So that was the phasing of, and this, from start to finish, could take 6 years, could take 8, could take 10. We don't know, could take 5, depends the needs of the district. But I think that's the long and short of it, is not spending, going out and spending 12, I know this building was $5 million, what's the fire station cost? We have to find that out, and that's what, we gotta spend some money to find out, the finish, what's the square feet and all that, what are the needs, and the building committee has really fleshed out a lot of that detail, and just bringing it to the finish line with the architect. But I do recall some of the test results, the ground here was a whole lot less expensive to excavate and do the pilings and do the support, and it's better ground. It's significantly more expensive to do the groundwork at Park Street, but over time, free parcel, cheaper site work, and have a small footprint of a substation here, and then roll it out. But that's kind of the concept. And what's, with all the building permits and applications and apartments that are coming to, nobody knows what the growth plan is going to be, but in 10 years' time, it's going to be different world, I think. Just looking at what we hear from the deputy chief about all the building applications and growth.
Towns want to be self-funded.
Hmm?
Towns want to be self-funded,
Right?
just like the 5 districts that are doing it.
I mean,
Creative funding. You can't blame them. If you're going to spend the time doing an inspection, there should be some kind of offset for that. It shouldn't just be the taxpayer.
I was wondering about impact fees and.
Yeah, listen, I get it.
Any other questions on that? All right, Article 6. This is the fire prevention expendable trust fund. So these are the funds that were collected over the past year. We're going to move from the general fund into the trust fund. And then Article 7 corresponds with that. This is the this proposal that Deputy Chief put together of what he'd like to do in the coming year as far as public education and training and whatnot, and what he would like to use some of those funds in that fire prevention trust fund. Anyone has any questions? I'm sure Chief Amy would be happy to answer.
Was that 8?
That's 7. All right, number 8 is the communications tower. This is half of the revenue that was generated from the tower. Half stays in the general fund, the other half goes into the communications tower expendable trust fund. So this is just moving the money into the fund. And then if you go to Article 9, this is the health insurance deductible. This is to replenish the fund that we have in the budget. And this money comes out of the outside fund balance. We try to keep
5,500.
how much?
5,500.
5,500, right. Right now, Article 10. It's a whole bunch of words there. But if you go to the third line, you see in parentheses, it says ambulance billing and other emergency services billing. The fund currently just says ambulance billing. So any monies that were collected due to billing for ambulance services go into this fund. Well, the fire department has other funds that are generated through services provided. And adding this language allows those to be put into the fund.
For instance,
What are they?
yeah.
So that would, oh, go ahead, Chief.
So if we go to a, say, a gas truck, bobtail rolls over, it's a hazmat incident, we could bill for that. And their insurance company, we bill hourly, and they send us a check for that. And, or extrications, or we have to put speedy dry down, or something like that. We can send motor vehicle or even boat insurance, I guess, if you want, if that. They get a bill for our services for that type of stuff from the insurance company, and that comes to us, and that money, since we're using the tools that we buy with the apparatus and equipment fund to mitigate those situations, we thought any money collected from those types of incidents should go back into that fund.
And it's not a huge amount of money. I mean, it's a good amount of money, but it's not.
I think last year we collected $20-something thousand.
Where was that money before?
Well, we just started doing it. I just learned how to do it, so
That wasn't recouped when we went and had to put hazmat down for anything?
we weren't.
We weren't recouping any of that?
No. When I found out we were allowed to do it, I said, let's do it. Because I'm trying to.
I know, I get it, I just can't believe that we didn't seek for expenditures. So when we go to a car accident, we don't, if it's not medical, it is something we do, say it's something, other emergency services, and we have to spend taxpayer funds for it, for cleanup of gasoline or something, we don't recoup any of that?
We send a bill now.
But you're correct in the past, right? We go to an accident scene, there's no injuries, we don't transport, but we've got a fire engine out there.
We don't go for structure fire, right?
No.
Why not? You come give me a ride in an ambulance with 2 or 3 guys and a $300,000 piece of equipment, and you bill me all you can, and you bill insurance company too, but my house catches on fire, you bring $8 or $10 million worth of equipment, 45 guys, and you just go right on the chin. What's up with that?
Well, that resident has been paying taxes to support the fire district. It's no different than say, the EMS comes to my house and transports me to
Hospital.
Concord. Okay, normally they might bill, let's just say $5,000. Because I'm a resident, I don't have to pay that. Now they can bill.
Insurance will cover.
What's that?
You pay what your insurance will cover, and then they have to forgive the rest, I think, is how that actually works. But my comment was about structure fires. We spend a lot of money on.
So insurance companies, so we're not trying to attack any individual particularly, but if your insurance coverage has a coverage for certain specific incidents where they pay for certain services, insurance companies pay for hazmat cleanup. They do that. If we respond to a house fire, the home insurance will pay for, if you have it, they'll pay for the structure, the contents, maybe your replacement, emergency housing. There's no section in your homeowner's insurance where they're going to pay the fire department for responding. In motor vehicle insurance, a lot of them have a place where they'll pay the fire department for like hazmat response and stuff like that. So I'm trying to capture what.
Creative,
Yes.
creative budget.
Yeah.
Because you're losing, it's a lost opportunity,
Right.
a financial opportunity.
Right. So
Well, right.
I have legislation sponsored by a House member for me to make it easier for us to get the information to do these billings. I don't know if it's going to pass, but we'll find out. We're working on it. I also I work heavily on ambulance legislation, ambulance billing legislation, to make sure that our revenues are going up. I had, heavily involved had 2 bills passed last year, so that insurance companies have to send the check to us and not the patient, so that we don't have to chase the patient for the service.
Who bills, I'm sorry, who's billing? Do you, the district, bill the insurance company and then they pay the homeowner? And you're saying-
They pay the
Really?
insured because they say they don't have a contract with us, they have a contract with the insured.
I know,
It's
okay.
just,
Semantic,
yeah, so, so tomorrow I'm testifying at the House all day long on 6 separate bills concerning ambulance billing, to make sure that the bills that ends up being hopefully passed in the end is going to make sure that we get a better payment from, an automatic payment from the insurance companies. Because right now, say we send a bill to anybody for, say it's $2,000 for the ambulance ride, Medicare will pay us $500 and something, Anthem will pay us $400 and something. And so we have to balance bill.
Mhm.
That's if Anthem sends us the check, they'll send us $400 something. If they send the check to the insured, it'll be for the full amount. And then we have to chase the insured for that amount. And we end up having to write most of it off because we can't get it.
So the only other thing that, we're on Article 10 still,
Yeah.
so you're asking the voters to amend the verbiage of the actual fund, right? To include this money.
To allow the revenue from other,
Right, to
Services.
include the, and other emergency billing services billing verbiage into it and update it, and make it all current.
that's correct.
DRA was okay with that?
Yes. And our attorneys, this has all been approved by DRA and our attorney.
It's the only way you can do it.
Right.
There was,
I was gonna say, well, you sound surprised.
Yeah, because I called DRA and I was asking about changes to the verbiage, and they were like, oh, no, you can't change it, you can rescind it and put something new in, just kind of like we raise and appropriate, and then we put the money somewhere. They were saying you had to rescind it and then put something else and have the voters, and I'm not sure, like, because as we know in some of our towns, we'll raise and appropriate, and then we go, we're not putting it in. I don't know if it happens in Tilton, but it happens in other towns. So that's, and I talked to DRA, wasn't recently, and I hate to say, I think it was pre-COVID, because I've kind of lost time there with the COVID thing. So they were like adamant that you can't change the verbiage, so I'm surprised.
It wasn't that long ago that we changed the verbiage to be able to use the fund for repairs and maintenance
Yeah, it
of
was
said
2
equipment.
or 3 years
It used
ago.
to just be buy. Now it's the calibrations and the testing and the repairs and all of it.
And as a taxpayer, it seems like you're morphing the needs of the district, so that money that we're raising and appropriating, we're scooching it into different categories and stuff. And, because when this was presented to us, it was for this. And now it's like, well, this. And then when you say, well, we'd like to do, we can't do that because it says this.
Yeah.
You know what? So that's where the hair on my neck goes up. I'll just tell you.
Well, I think one of the things you'll see historically is that the fund keeps getting bigger and bigger. And
Which is nice, because you know what? It's not raised and appropriated by the taxpayer.
right, but we couldn't. If you would see a trend that you would get to the point where you can't buy enough equipment because you generated.
Yeah, we don't want to go buy a shiny truck just because we have $3 million in the account and our,
So
yeah,
that-
trucks are,
So in an effort to lower the
you can't build a building with it.
taxpayer portion of the budget.
Listen, that's why I was saying to them, you know what? It was almost like when that fund was created, it pigeonholed us. But I'm sure when that was created, it was
Right.
guidance with DRA, and now they're like, well, you know what I mean? So it just makes me very nervous when we're morphing and changing and tweaking it for our needs,
Well, this particular article is adding a revenue source, not depleting
Right.
the fund,
Yeah,
so.
you're gonna make that very clear to people,
Mm.
that I'm just gonna tell you, you're gonna alleviate happy nonsense.
I think it was a big deal when we got just the repair of the trucks back into that fund, because you buy the truck, and every budget year, we look at in the operating budget, the repairs to the trucks and the maintenance and the inspections and the PMs and all the stuff just to keep the trucks going. You know, you're having these difficult conversations about what you're gonna spend, and you can't predict when a truck's gonna break and all this stuff. To have that in this fund insulates the taxpayer from the increase in the cost. And the more money you spend on preventative maintenance and oiling the truck and taking care of the truck, hey, we don't have to buy a truck as often, so then there's more money in the fund. Then our trucks are lasting long, because we're not afraid to spend money on maintaining the truck and taking care of it. Now the truck lasts longer, so we don't, a truck that would have been a 20-year purchase might be a 22-year purchase. And so, okay, now we're gonna buy this special meter to take care of somebody. Well, hey, to calibrate that thing costs money. Well, let's use the same money to take care of that thing. But yeah, it can get out of hand, and if we're not careful.
Kevin, you had another
I
question?
mean, there was talk, I think, about using this fund to some degree for a building. What's up with that?
That's been batted around, that's something that still needs to be looked at, as to whether that's viable, possible.
What were we running this at, $500,000 a year? right?
Last year, we earned $635,000.
For me to wrap my head around needing $500,000 a year, every year.
Right.
There's money here, there's money in there.
Yeah, that's why that fund keeps growing, right?
And if the billing is getting better, and the amount we're allowed to collect on the billing is getting better, and the payments coming to us instead of going to the patient is getting better, right? The fund should only improve, contrary to what others may think, that, you know, the ambulance funds are in trouble if the money's going in the right direction. But there may be a way that the fund can be used to help with the building without the building itself, because I remember when this happened, the furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, and other things that weren't the walls and the floor had to be paid for, and they were considered equipment and not a building. So that's a part of it, you know, when it's all said and done, when you have to put things in the building, you never know. And that with little change to that fund may help with that too.
Are there any other questions on that? 10. So, hearing none, well, obviously we'll go back to someone thinks something. Article 11, that's been in there for a number of years now, that's a contingency fund, and that's a percentage of the budget. Comes from the unassigned fund balance, we haven't used that ever, I don't think. And the money just defaults back into the unreserved fund balance.
And this has failed more than once.
It's, yeah, some years it passes, some years it doesn't.
So we've never used it. It's failed. Why is it here? I mean, can you sit there and tell me why this is necessary? Given,
It's a contingency. Right.
given the history, you have
It's a contingency fund for just in case, so that if at the end of the year, you need a few $1,000s for one thing or another, who knows what. The commissioners have to vote to move that money. I can't do it,
right.
our administrative manager can't do it, the commissioners have to do it. And usually these things happen at the end of the year, when you know where your budget is and stuff like that. And at the very end of the year, the only other avenue, if you know you're going to overexpend, is to go to DRA, and that's a process. And sometimes that process takes longer than what you end up having because of whatever happened. This just gives us a little cushion, and my intent, and my intent ever since we've had it, is to never spend it, to make sure that we don't have to spend it. But there's some things I just can't predict, and this is just like an insurance claim that doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, I think the scenario, the stereotypical response is, well, what if the boiler lets go? Well, there was been a year where that happens, and you find a way to pay for it, and it didn't have to, but, tree falls on the station, or, who knows, these random acts of, who knows?
So let's see if it's approved or fails. All right, anything else? Any other questions anybody has on the warrant?
This is an official document.
Yes. Yeah.
Nothing's changed, so.
I read a story at a point in time. I think it might have been Atkinson or Albany. My recollection is that the town began with an A. Something happened in their warrant where the entity was not properly identified, and they paid the price.
Are you seeing an error in them?
We're missing something.
Something went through fire and EMS?
Well, that's illegal.
So the legal name is the Tilton Northfield Fire District doing business as Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS. If you look up our DUNS and all that kind of stuff, that's how it is. So you can use either name on your letterhead if you want. We try to use mostly Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS, but when it comes to like real business,
Yeah.
like banking and stuff like that, it's the fire district.
There's always someone looking to, as you're walking by, go. Maybe some people think that's me, but
You might-
it's just.
I saw it highlighted.
Hey, what's about this?
All right, anything else? Well, again, thank you all for coming, appreciate it. Hearing nothing else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn, made and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.